Welcome to Lesson 10.1, Graphing Points in 4 Quadrants. Today's objectives, I will be able to name points on the coordinate plane and graph points on the coordinate plane. Alright, so first we need to talk about our vocabulary. So we're going to take a look at these words, and the definitions are listed here below, and we're going to try and match the definitions to the vocabulary term. So if you want to, you can pause and try and do this on your own before we go through them, or you can just go through them with me. Alright, the point 0, 0 on the coordinate plane. The point 0, 0 on the coordinate plane is known as the origin. This is where everything starts. That's why it is called the origin. So when you're looking at a coordinate plane, so this will be your example. So here's your y-axis, here's your x-axis. This right here where the two intersect, so 0, 0, is the origin. So when you're drawing your example, you might want to draw an arrow to it. And it's called the origin because that's where you always have to start. That's your home base. The horizontal axis on a coordinate plane. To help us remember what horizontal means, I'd like you to think of when you look out at the horizon, it moves from left to right. So horizontal means left to right. The horizontal axis on a coordinate plane is the x-axis. Okay, so again, we'll draw ourselves a little coordinate plane as our example. And this one right here, that would be your x-axis. And sometimes because we have so many of the same drawings, if you want to get a colored pencil and draw maybe the x-axis in red and then put a red dot for the origin, sometimes that helps draw your attention to what you're actually looking for in the definition. The vertical axis on the coordinate plane, so vertical, sometimes you hear people talking about somebody's vertical leap. That's how high up and down they can jump. So the vertical or up and down axis is the y-axis. Right, so I'm going to take my own advice and I'm going to draw the y-axis in red. And then let's see, x-axis, and draw a little arrow so I remember that as the y-axis. A plane formed by a horizontal number line and a vertical number line. This is what we call our coordinate grid or your coordinate plane. Okay, so in this case, this whole thing would be in red because this whole thing is your coordinate plane. And then the 4 different spaces that the axes break the plane into. These are actually called quadrants. Okay, so those 4 different spaces that you see. So again, draw another coordinate plane or coordinate grid. And these spaces that you see here, so here's one, here's one, here's one, those are called the 4 quadrants. Alright, so we're going to label the parts of our graph, and when you look in your notes, you'll see that all of this is on one page for you. So you need to write down what quadrant this is, are the numbers negative, positive. We'll go through all of this, but I just wanted you to be aware that this is what the first page of your notes is. Now this is several pages for me though, so just follow along and make sure you're paying attention to where your information should go. Alright, so we're going to label the quadrants on our grid. They go counterclockwise. So right here, this is our quadrant 1. It consists of positive and positive numbers. So it's a positive x and a positive y. Now we're going to go counterclockwise, so we're going to go this way, and this becomes quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is made up of a negative x, okay, because we go left, and left gets us into negative numbers, and a positive y, because we're going left and up. Then we go down, and that gets us into quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is made up of a negative x and a negative y, because now you're going left and down. So it's kind of the way you would think it would be, where if you're going to the right or up, your numbers are positive. If you're going to the left or down, your numbers are negative. So you guessed it, in quadrant 4, we have positive x's, negative y's, because we're going to the right and we're going down. Right, next, you have the y-axis. The y-axis is long and tall. It goes up and down vertically. The x-axis is short and it goes across. I wouldn't necessarily say that one is tall and one is short. They both go on in opposite directions forever. I guess you could say this is tall because it goes up and down, and this is short because it does not go up and down. However, you need to remember that the x-axis is the one that is horizontal and the y-axis is the one that is vertical. Okay, so now that you've got this filled out, your notes should look something like this. And make sure, don't write 2, because that's not how we write the quadrants. We have to use Roman numerals here. So it should be 2, 1, positive, positive, negative, positive. This is the y-axis. This is quadrant 3, the negative, negative. This is the x-axis, quadrant 4, which is positive, negative. Okay, now you can move on to the next part of your notes. And again, this will be one page for you, but it's several pages for me. So we're going to describe the location of this point. Now we're not giving its ordered pair or its coordinates. We're just telling somebody where it's located, where in general you can find this. So your options would be any of the 4 quadrants, the y-axis, or the x-axis. In this case, the correct answer would be that this dot, because it's in a negative then positive, is in quadrant 2. Right, so here you would put quadrant 2. Alright, the next one. I'll do this one with you again. So now we're looking at it, and this one is in the positive and positive, which tells me it's in quadrant 1. Right, now what I would like you to do is I want you to pause, and I want you to solve these 3 on your own, and when you come back, we'll go over your answers. Alright, so the next one we have quadrant 3. Negative and negative gives you quadrant 3. This would be on the x-axis. Okay, it can't be in both quadrant 2 and 3, so it has to be on the x-axis. Otherwise, it is fully in quadrant 2 or it is fully in quadrant 3. Okay, and this one is the y-axis. Again, it can't be in 1 and 2. It can only be in one spot, so in this case it's on the y-axis. Alright, your next vocabulary term, ordered pair. An ordered pair is coordinates x and y from the coordinate plane that give an exact point on the grid. Okay, so what this means is this first number, 3, is your x-coordinate. That tells you, starting at the origin, first it tells you which way to go. Since it's positive, it tells you to go to the right. And because it's a positive 3, it tells you to go to the right 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. Then the next number, the negative 4, is your y-coordinate. And because it's negative, it tells you to go down. And the 4 tells you to go down 4. So you stop at the 3, so you moved 1, 2, 3, and now you go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can look at it in ordered pair, kind of like directions. Okay, it's telling you walk 3 spaces forward and then 4 spaces down, or 3 spaces to the right and 4 spaces down. The order does matter. This is very important. If you were to put negative 4, 3, then you would actually end up over here. You would end up in a completely different quadrant, in a completely different place on the coordinate grid. So make sure you put the order in correctly. All right, some tips to help you remember. Tip number 1, an airplane travels across the runway before going up into the air. So just like you, with your coordinate grid, you have to go across before you can fly up into the air. Another way that you can look at it, okay, a basketball player has to travel across the court before he can go up for the shot. All right, so again, you have these in your notes. And I want you to make sure you're plotting on the graphs. Okay, so we're going to drag each point below to its appropriate place on the coordinate grid. Now I want you to take a look here. I have 2 examples where we do this, so you can do this on your 2 separate grids. So if I have negative 3, 2, I start at the origin, and negative 3 tells me to go backwards 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then the positive 2 tells me to go up 2. So 1, 2. The next one tells me to go to 4, 5. Since they're both positive, I know I have to go to the right 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 into my positive numbers, and up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I want you to try the next 2 on your own, and then when you come back, we'll check your answers. All right, so we start at the origin. It's a positive 2, so 1, 2. Negative 6 means I go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And negative 4 means backwards 4, and then down 4. And we can click here and check, and we are all in the correct spots. Okay, so here's the next one. I need you to write down the coordinates, and I want you to make sure that you try this one on your own. We'll go over it in class tomorrow. You might want to write down that 0, 5. So here you can put 0, 5, and you might want to put that it's orange. And that will help you when we go over our answers, make it a little bit easier to check your answers to see if they're correct or incorrect. So then negative 3, 0 would be blue, negative 4, 5 would be yellow, and 5, negative 4 would be green. Remember, you can always pause to write this down and go get markers or colored pencils. All right, moving right along. Now we're doing this a little bit backwards. Now we're looking at the points, and we are actually going to figure out what the ordered pair is for the points. And I know this is kind of tough for you in your notes because in your notes, you do not have colors. So in your notes, I just want you to take your time and look and see that the first one is green, orange, blue, yellow, pink. So you might want to take a minute now to pause and color in the circles to their correct colors. All right, just like before, I'm going to do an example with you, and then I'm going to let you try the rest of them on your own. So for the green dot, we always start at the origin, and now I need to figure out how many spaces did I move across in order to get to the line that the green dot is on. Well, I know I have to move forward 2 because it's on that second line, but I'm still on the x-axis, I'm not to my dot yet, and then I know I had to go down 2 to get to where my green dot was. So I moved to the right 2, so a positive 2, and then down 2, so it's a negative 2. So the ordered pair is 2, negative 2. Right, I want you to try the last 4 on your own. These are what I want you to post onto Edmodo. You can put this as number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Make sure that when you're writing your ordered pair, you have to have the parentheses and the comma. If you don't, it's not considered an ordered pair. So in your answer, make sure it looks exactly like what we have here with your correct numbers. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to write them down or to post them so we can go over them in class.